And I kept on saying, is it over? Is it over? Can I leave? And her boss, Mr. Grossman, a Nazi, he came over, offered me chocolate, which was a rarity in those days. And finally, the all clear signal came, and I left. I went back to the bus stop, and this time the bus came, and I got on. And when we skirted the factory, the gasoline factory that was hit, I saw how they carried out the bodies, the burned bodies. And it was really very sickening. And when the bus got into the city where I usually transferred to, the trolley got out, and what I saw was broken glass and jumbled wires and no transportation, of course. So I started to walk, and it was an uphill walk. When I came closer to where we lived, I saw my husband and Olga's husband, my sister's husband, and they looked at me like I was a ghost. They took me to my apartment, and I still could not bring out a word. He calmed me down. He said, "This is not a place for you to stay. I'm going to put you on the train, and you will leave for Nitra, where my sister Olga, who had already my mother there, lived. And it was just a question how to get to the station because no cab was to be had."
Before this, did you ever talk with your husband about leaving Bratislava?
No, I had a job. This was not only a job, my life depended on it. Otherwise, they would deport me. The deportations were a constant the whole year in 1942. In 1943, there was a lull in the deportation. And I thought, maybe. But in 1944, when I speak about the bombing, the bombing was on June the 16th. And the invasion already had taken place June the 6th. So we had such hope, that the war will be, excuse me, the war will end soon. Instead, it was the last chapter of our life, the final solution.
Tell me where Nitra was and how did you get from Bratislava to Nitra and with whom did you go?
Oh, when I left that day of the bombing,
when you left.
Somehow, with great difficulty, my husband got a cab. We got to the station, but there was so many people going on that train when I could not get to a seat. They were pushing and shoving, and again I was afraid that something will happen to the baby. Well, I finally got there, and of course, they heard on the radio that the section was hit. But my mother was already bedridden for a long time in her house, and she did not ask me any questions. It took me a few days until I got back to normal. That was June. And I was anyway entitled for maternity leave. So I stayed there and waited until the child was born. And just about a day before or 2 days before, Paula, my girlfriend, who used to work at the same place as me at the first job, she came to see me. And just at that time, it happened that 2 people escaped. It was the only incident. Escaped from Auschwitz. His name was Wexler. I don't remember the other fellow. And he had I saw him in a neighbor's house, and he had such a wild look in his eyes, coming from Auschwitz and living under such circumstances. His name is now Rudolf Verba. He's a psychiatrist in Manchester, England. I read his book about it. And he gave to the Kahila, to the Jewish community, the blueprints of Auschwitz, and told them the whole story. So the Jewish community, the few who were in charge of it, one I remember was an architect, Krasnyansky, and they made a protocol and they sent a copy to the Pope and to the heads of the state of England and to Tiso, who was the president of the Slovak Republic where we were. He got a copy of it too. So they knew what went on in Auschwitz, they knew about it, and still they tried to make the final solution to deport the people.
Where did you meet this man? Where did you see him?
I did not meet him, I just saw him.
Where did you see him?
In Nitra.
In Nitra. Tell me where Nitra is. How far from Bratislava?
It's about 2 hours ride by train. And he did not tell me anything or talk to me. I just saw him like from a little distance. But he let everybody know what is going on in Auschwitz and how they kill, exactly every detail, because he was there from the very beginning. And so my sister Olga knew already that they're making soap out of the Jews, that they are gassing them. They tell them, they give them a towel with soap, but they are going to their death. And all these things, so you can imagine when in a short while, this was what? It was June, July, I stayed there, and it was end of July. I have even a picture, I think, of Paul and me in the backyard, in the garden, sitting, and Olga and the family were taken in October. So it was that close, and she knew that what is waiting for her. And she went with my sister together and with the others, but one of my sisters came back, Emma, and she told me that they both faced Mengele, Dr. Mengele, who decided who goes left and who goes right. And Olga was with a child, he was probably like 6 or 7 years old. And he told her to go to the left where they cremate the people. And she knew it, so she argued with him. I'm young, I can still work. Just waved her.
When you were in Nitra, before you had your baby, did you think Nitra was safe?
I have never been prior to my coming when Olga was there.